Hey, everybody, we're live, and you saw me pop it in because I'm super excited. We have a double session here today. So we've got David Trenholm from Bank of America. Thanks for joining us, David.
Thank you.
And we've got, after David, immediately following at 12:30, we got Jennifer Goodman, from Aramark Uniformed Services, the military recruiter for them. But I'm a little out of wits because UPS just showed up. And I actually just got this delivered. Some of you will recognize the box. David recognized it immediately, and I can't wait. I got to see what Dan Horgan from Black Rifle Coffee sent me. So looks like I got
Silencer Smooth.
What's it called? Silencer Smooth. Silencer Smooth. And then another box.
I'm a big fan of their exclusive coffee club and subscription club and Just Black.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, Dan, if you're tuned in, let's do some more LinkedIn Lives. But no, this is exciting. I've actually never tried Black Rifle Coffee. I've been just buying my coffee from Wegmans, so I feel like this is like how they get you, right? They have, oh my gosh. Look at that.
You got a mug.
I got a mug. Well, I have my coffee game has been lame for so long. So it looks like I got a super cool mug as well. Look at that. And Black Rifle Coffee is not promoting us, but I'm happy to share this because now my coffee game has just gotten a lot cooler. So anyway, cool swag indeed from Christian. So I feel like I just made it. I'm like a kid in a candy store. You know, us retired sergeants majors or retired senior enlisted, especially those Navy guys, love their coffee. So anyway, hey, thanks for joining us, David. You know, we've been connected for a while. We've chatted a few times. I really appreciate you coming to share a day at work from Bank of America.
It's my pleasure. And I have to credit you with everything because you came to Jacksonville, Florida during one of your USO tour live events. And I learned so much from it. And then afterwards, there was a Vets on Tap networking event afterwards. And I talked to you and I was like, I don't know, man, I got to go home, got to do stuff. And you got on to me. It was like, man, don't you understand? There's going to be like 50 to 100 people there. There's going to be employers. You're going to be amazed at who you're going to meet. And from then on, my networking game completely changed. And I got all into networking, informational interviews, and it, helped smooth my transition.
Well, that's fantastic. I think I kind of remember that conversation. You didn't have the beard back then, though.
No, that's what I can do.
Sometimes I can be a little rough on people, but I just want people to own their transition, to go get it if you want it, right? It's there. So you transition and now you're an assistant vice president at Bank of America, right?
That's correct.
So how did that all work out for you?
So I actually joined through networking. I got hired on with a veteran program in the Global Tech and Operation Division of Bank of America. And it's a military development program, which is 2-year internship. I'm spending my first year in the operations side and my second year on the technology side. And then after the internship, 30% of my time is supposed to be networking, meeting executives, senior VPs and stuff, and building my brand in the bank, and finding that permanent placement.
So that's what you're doing right now? Definitely. Fantastic. So you say you networked in. Did you have to apply online? Did you talk to somebody first? So
I had another person in the Navy who was one of my peers. He got out 5 years before me. He did the same program. I just happened to go, hey, John, what, talk to me more about this program. You've been there for 5 years, so it must be good. Tell me about it. He said, hey, send me your resume. We'll talk. He connected me with like 4 other people that did the exact same program as him. And he also connected me with a recruiter, Kathleen Hunter. I already told her that I'll be letting everybody know about her name. She's on LinkedIn. But talked to her. She was very impressed with my resume and everything. Oh, good old Rip. And two rounds of interviews later, and I received the offer. But it wasn't just that; it was coaching. I kept going back to multiple friends that were in the program because I found out there was one, and then the initial one, John, and then I found out another friend of mine, Brian, and a couple others were in the program, and they coached me, they taught me, they interview prepped me, and the interview is what sold me with the bank.
Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing it's not an easy process for them to invest 2 years into you.
No.
They've got a lot of people applying, basically.
There is, but there's requirements. So like my requirement, and every one of these veteran programs with every company is a little bit different. So the one I'm in requires a minimum of a bachelor's degree and E7 and above.
Okay.
Those are pretty much the minimum requirements. No years restriction, a couple others. That's my program. There's another program called the Strategy and Management, which is similar, but it's more on like the consumer side of the bank. And then there's another one called VAP. Can't remember exactly. Hold on one second. That is the Veterans Associate Program. That one is open up to just about all ranks. But that one's highly competitive, and it's like a 12-week boot camp.
Oh, really?
For those joining the bank.
I mean, that's fantastic. I've seen Bank of America hiring into these programs quite a few senior enlisted leaders. And to me, that's actually, I'm actually a client, so that's always good. I'm not a member, but I guess I am a member. But it's made me feel better about banking with Bank of America because I see that they recognize the talent that, not just veterans in general, but also that our senior enlisted bring you guys these leadership positions. So let's talk. You said, so you're an assistant vice president during this program. Do you stay in that role when you get out, or do you transition into something else?
So you can think of like the assistant vice president as kind of a rank. That like everything with the bank is there's kind of like a semi rank, and then there's what you actually do.
Right.
So right now my role is business support lead. So what I do is a lot of you could think of project management, a little bit of operation management. I'm not directly in charge of anyone, but I've been put on a couple of projects where I work with people, several peers and actually leaders that are above me. One of them's paper reduction. Like we all talk about in the military, getting rid of paper and stuff. But, in some ways it was kind of lip service, but the bank is serious about it.
Yeah.
Because, we talked about this before. What does corporations care about? Two things: making money or saving money. The project I was on was, saving money, reduce printing. I hate to say COVID helped it a little bit,
right?
But it really forced us to look at our procedures. With 2/3 of the workforce working from home, like I am, it eliminates printing right there. And then we looked at, well, do we really have to print something and sign it, or can we just join the 21st century and e-sign documents?
So you helped kind of define that process for the bank?
I wouldn't say for the entire bank. It's more of my area under my leader, which he's in charge of about 250 people. And the good story is that his boss, who's in charge of about 3,000 people, was so impressed with what we were doing at kind of more the local level that I had to create a brief, just like it was going to the admiral or the general. A one-page brief of like, hey, this is what we're doing and this is what we're expecting.
Yep. So it sounds like if I'm trying to translate it into words that I understand, is that you were doing it for your business unit, basically.
Yes.
And then your business unit impressed your sector, the next higher level that has several business units under it, so that they took it implemented it.
Exactly.
And it actually sounds like what you're doing now is very similar to what Brian Arrington said he does for the other bank last week. Are there a lot of similarities? I know you guys talk.
We talk. I mean, in all, I mean, everything's a business, so it's making money or saving money.
Yep.
You know, we don't talk between me and him about specifics of how we do things, whatever, because they have their procedures, we have ours. But we talk as, you know, good friends, you know, a lot, especially with, you know, when we talk about vets to industry and what he supports and what I help with. But just in general, like, you know, like for me, you know, there's these veteran programs, but we also do direct hires.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, like, hey, if you don't find anything in a location that Bank of America is, you know, I've got a good friend over here, Brian, who's at Wells Fargo. They're in different locations.
Yep.
You know, ultimately, we are competitors, but in the veteran and military spouse scheme of things, I care about people finding careers.
Yep. And I always share a story. You know, Coke and Pepsi don't like each other, right? I'm like, but I remember they both got together and did a veteran video a few years back about hiring veterans. And that's like, you know, crazy talk. But if there's one thing that can bring people together, it's the veteran community. So no, that's fantastic. So, so you basically get assigned. So this is your first year in the program still?
Yes.
So if I understand it, you said 30% of your time is to go meet with VPs,
networking
makers within Bank of America.
Yes.
Do you just schedule those yourself, or does somebody help you schedule them? Is there, you know,
there's a little bit of everything. You know, some of it is networking. There's several internal networks we call diversity inclusion groups. The veterans have a huge group with 42 chapters all across Bank of America, the U.S., and actually the globe. You know, and there's other diversity inclusion groups. And so I've joined several of those, you know, to expand my network, to learn about different communities and how I can help or learn from them as well. You know, and a lot of the times going into those meetings, I meet people. I've had conversations with people at the meeting, or also, you know, they'll introduce me to somebody. We'll get in a conversation, and there's also mentor programs. I'm involved with I have like 3 or 4 mentors at the bank. A couple of them are veterans. A couple of them are civilians, never served. And they've been instrumental in helping and guiding me on my way.
Yep. And I think, you know, honestly, I think a lot of people don't quite understand the importance of networking within your organization when you arrive. One of the first things when I got to EY I did was that first week was I connected with like 400 partners, principals, managing directors, other senior managers in like my sector, in the DC Tyson's office, and then a smattering, including the CEO, the CEO for Americas and the CEO for all of EY, and they accepted them. Yeah, they accepted them, and you know, kind of making the time to build those relationships, and even if they just see your engagement, they start to feel like they know you, they remember the name, and it really set me off well within the firm. And I would imagine that they've built it into your program where there's a goal to do that networking to give you that better foundation to find your success going forward.
Yeah. So my program as a whole, they constantly do networking, business acumen, different type of programs. So that that's so awesome. That's an internal referral I just did.
Yeah.
You just interviewed yesterday.
So, hey, if you want referrals, reach out to David. Congratulations, Jonathan. I know that distracted you, but I had to show that one.
No, that is awesome. That is great news. He was just calling me and probably to let me know. I had to ignore the phone call.
Yeah.
But other things is like I was kind of the same thing as my first day. Brenda, my original manager, when I showed up, she put on my calendar for like the first 3-4 weeks, you're going to go meet with all these people. And I met so many people inside my organization, in my line of business, that it was mind blowing. And it was I don't know about you, but it was the whole fire hose effect, you know, trying to drink from a fire hose, and everyone was so nice. They gave me so much information at the end. They were always like, so do you have any questions? And I'm like, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know doing? Let me come back to you in a month when I can digest some of this information.
And I think people don't realize it's not necessarily so you get to know them. A lot of it's so that they get to know you, right? So that when something comes up and they think of somebody, they think, hey, I remember I met David. Let me see if David, or, I need somebody to do this. Let me think about David. So it kind of goes both ways, and I'm excited about that. So let's get into this program in your day, right? So talk to me about, like, when does your day start? When does your day end? Is it just meetings all day? Can you give us a little bit more about that?
So my day, and I actually modeled this after my manager, Brenda. After listening to her and what she does, I get up early. I'm getting up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. I go hit the gym in the morning to knock it out the first thing in the morning.
Wait a minute, you weren't really in the Navy then, right? Sorry, no Navy, no sailors get up at 5:30 to go in the morning to go to PT, right?
Well, no. No, it's not like the Army getting up at 3:30 in the morning to go do 15-mile hikes. I'm just going to go for, get the elliptical and do an hour or so.
I don't do those hikes anymore, so trust me, I don't have any room to talk. So 5:30 in the morning.
I get my workout in. I try to get in on the computer. My schedule for the most part is 9 to 5,
okay.
Monday through Friday. That being said, I try to get in about 30 minutes early to get my day going and figure out what's going on. And then after that, my first initial meeting, I'm on 2 or 3 different projects. So my first group meeting starts about 9 o'clock to talk about the task for the day. Then I meet, a couple hours later with a couple other coworkers, my immediate coworkers. To try and say, hey, what's going on? Who needs help? Hey, can you look at my report and QA me? And then, I try to put in a variety call, if my day is not busy during lunchtime, to give back to the community.
I think I saw that you went over 100 hours or something, didn't you?
I did. It took me, and I saw a couple people's comments. It took 10, 11 months, but it was just, getting on the phone call and talking to people and helping them out just like I was helped out.
No, that's incredible. So you've got your basically, you said 3 or 4 meetings a day, solid meetings to discuss the project and what your role is and where you're going with it, right?
Yep.
And then the rest is PowerPoint slides, spreadsheets. What is the, without going to the processes, like, do you get a specific task and you start working on it?
So I've got a lot of reports. So being business support, I've got a lot of reports. I've got daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly reports. I try and knock them out as fast as possible and accurately as possible.
All right. Business reports. What is that, like? Reports of different businesses you support, or your organization supports, like Bank of America supports, without giving specifics? Like,
no. So more of what people do on their daily, looking at the metrics, how many customers did we, did a certain line of business, get assigned work? How many did they meet with our requirements of getting it done in 24 hours, 48 hours, that sort of stuff, making sure we meet our metrics, because if we're meeting our metrics, the customer's happy.
Right.
And it's all about, the customers getting it done on time. So I'm pretty much doing the progress report across 4 or 5 different lines of business for my senior leader, and that's part of a daily report. And that report goes all the way up to a senior leader who you could equate once again back to a general or an admiral.
Yep.
So we've got people looking at us all the way up, and I'm not even sure that report could go higher all the way up to the CEO. I don't know. But they're looking at make sure that we're meeting everything,
right?
So a lot of it's pulling raw data from databases, and learning. I've learned things in Excel from my 2 coworkers, Frank and Patrice, who are amazing. I've learned more from them than I thought I'd ever do with Excel. And so a lot of it is taking raw data, creating pivot tables, finding out, what our internal customers want to look at. So what do they want to see? Once we create the reports, then we're sending them off to whoever is the customer of that report.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense. So, when you talk about metrics and you talk about making sure that you are making your customers happy, to make sure that you are getting value from your employees, right? Making sure they're staying engaged. Because I don't think a lot of people realize how much it costs a company to keep an employee, right? So if, you're not meeting metrics, or if there's too much for you to do and things are falling, then companies may need to generate additional headcount, right?
Exactly. And that's one of the things we do is we look at, hey, do we have too many people in one department, not another? Do we need to hire more? Do we have too much fat, in one area? And a lot of it I've noticed is like, if you say something like that, they're not looking to just automatically fire people. They're looking to transfer them to a different area to better utilize them.
Right. It's all about, making sure your workforce is engaged, and I understand that from my time working as a director of workforce management. So that workforce planning, the metrics, the engagement is incredibly important, especially for an organization that size. So you've got your meetings. It sounds like, you've got the raw data and they want insights in it, and you go get it and you kind of paint a picture for them that they can make decisions on. Do you get to make any, if you see any trends or any under or overutilization, are you able to make recommendations on how you could address that? Or are you just basically at this point providing the data?
Nope. Actually, some of the reports, especially the daily ones, after being on the report for about 30 days, 45 days, I started seeing a trend, and I went to my senior leader and said, hey, what do you really care about? All right. So you care about, execution. Okay. Is volume an issue? And he says, well, as long as we're executing, I'm not caring about volume as much. And so I noticed something, hey, there's certain times of the month that we're getting a spike, but we're still meeting our execution goals.
Right.
And I said, hey, instead of bothering you, 5, 6, 7 times a day, can I just get a carte blanche? Like, hey, we now know these are expected spikes in volume, but we're meeting execution. So really, he cared about execution. I was like, okay. So a part of my job actually is, business analytics, financial analytics, a little bit, looking at the data and actually being able to make recommendations, where appropriate.
And I think that's really exciting because, they're not bringing you in at that level to just, work databases. Ultimately, you said it's a leader development program, right? So they want you to be a leader, in the organization somewhere. So to give you room to kind of step forward and make those recommendations and see how they work is fantastic. And I think that leads into a question we got from Tammy Tanner, who says, what would you say is your single most important value you add to BoA from your military background?
I would say a lot of it is adaptability, flexibility, along with, just not overstressing things. If something's going on, I've been able, I took a lot of sit and watch mentality to kind of get an understanding of what was going on, but they truly value my insight. I've been put on multiple things where they said, hey, Dave, you're the new guy. They know I'm a veteran, so they trust my input. Yep. They're like, hey, we want you to poke holes in this. Yeah. Because just think of any instruction that was ever written. A lot of times those instructions are written by somebody who's an expert in that field, but they forget the details. So coming in blind, they valued my input enough to say, hey, look at this, poke holes, and let's fix these.
I love that, because that means that they're not looking for an echo chamber, number one. And number two, it means that they value your perspective. Having that leadership experience, having that, adaptability, that framework that doesn't necessarily grow from the banking community. So when you're looking at things unfiltered in a lot of ways, or not the same filters that they're having. So you're able to see those changes, those differences that maybe they always accepted. So that's really exciting that they do that. So the way, and let me see if I got this right. It seems like, first of all, 40-hour work week, 9 to 5, which is fantastic. And then, you're working on 3 to 4 different projects. You're pulling data, you're building charts, you're making recommendations, you're seeing trends. You're just basically really helping with business processes, and then finding ways to add value, whether to those projects or to the greater BoA by your relationships you're building, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Now you said year 2 is tech. So what does that mean?
So this is what everybody freaks out about, because there's a couple things before I get into that is, people have to think of the banks as more than just tellers and financial advisors. I have a finance and real estate bachelor's, but I don't have an MBA. I have an operations management master's. I've met so many people that are English, communication, all those type of masters. But the question again, I got sidetracked. I'm sorry.
I just got sidetracked as well, but it's really about what's year 2 going to look like.
Oh, year 2. Okay, so technology. I'm not expected to be a coder. More of everything I've talked to my friends that are on the tech side. It's once again a lot more project management, operations management. Dealing with the process and taking it from start to finish, and working with the actual programmers, and finding out what the executives want. Go back to the programmers, get it going, get on a rhythm to execute upgrades, patches, websites, phone apps, all that sort of stuff.
Yep. And I think, again, you don't have, I think this comes from a military background, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you can lead an organization without knowing how everything is exactly done within an organization. And so you going in there and helping with those projects will give you that background to at least know a little bit, enough to be dangerous, but you can also, make recommendations.
Yep.
And see how that works going forward.
And you have to utilize those people around you the best, because like I said, my 2 coworkers, Patrice and Frank, and even Steven, they help smooth me in, and I'm constantly learning from them. So I'm surrounded by extremely smart people.
Yep.
That challenge me and make me better.
Oh, that's awesome. And at the end of the 2 years, so after your next year, what happens? How's that all work out?
So, utilize that networking and reach out and start looking at the internal career board, to see what positions are advertised internally, and, find my place.
Yep.
And a lot of this, like I talked about the business acumen, we do education pieces so that we learn different lines of business of the bank, because there's over 200,000 employees, Bank of America, 8 lines of business. And even inside of those 8 lines of business, there's a million different opportunities.
Yep. So that's where the networking really comes in. So I think it's very similar. It sounds like it's very similar to a lot of the other large organizations where, ultimately it's finding that internal fit, right? In consulting, like they brought me in to people advisory services, government, public sector. But if I wanted to transition to another place, I'd have to find that, executive sponsor, that person that has the ability and wants to grow, and they want me on their team. And it sounds like that they've built a program at Bank of America that allows you to touch all these different elements, gain experience, so that at the end of year 2, they get, a fairly knowledgeable, experienced, assistant vice president that they can, find the right fit for.
Exactly. And that's the goal.
Well, we're going to see how we can do this. I'm going to add Jennifer to the stream. We've got Jennifer in here as well. We're almost at 30 minutes. But I did take about a minute or 2 of your time, David, as I was unwrapping my Black Rifle coffee package very excitedly. So any advice you want to give, David, before we transfer over to Jennifer, for our transitioning service member, veteran, or military spouse community?
So biggest thing is network. Reach out to myself on LinkedIn, and then Kathleen Hunter and Bobby Turner. Those 2 are specific military recruiters. It was actually, I'm making a name for myself because Kathleen Hunter just sent me a list of 50 tech jobs that they're looking to fill. And she's like, Dave, you've gotten so many people in here. Help me, find them as well. So I'll actually be putting a post about that this afternoon, saying, hey, here's all the tech jobs, reach out to me and I'll point you in the right direction.
Oh, that's awesome. So network. Hey, Gary Steensgaard, I see you're in here and you're very energetic and helpful. Would you mind dropping a link, or David, once we're off, would you mind dropping, tagging them in the feed, so if people want to connect with Bobby or Kathleen, that they can do so?
I will do.
Awesome. Well, hey, David, thanks again. Super helpful to learn a little bit more about how BoA is developing their leaders, their military leaders. And I'm excited to see where you take year 2 and then year 3, 4, 5, because I take it from the smiles, you're not planning on going anywhere anytime soon.
I think I found a home.
And that's what we're all looking for. So thanks again, David. And then, call if you need anything at all.
Will do.
All right.
Thank you, Jen.
All right, look at that. I'm actually getting tech savvy, Jennifer, and it's scary. So thanks for joining us. For everybody here, we're going to transition now. I'm super excited. Just so people know, I wanted to break these up, but if I do 2 posts back to back, 2 lives back to back, it really won't go anywhere. So I just kept it as one. We'll divide these in half, Jennifer, on the YouTube page, and then have them separate so people can get both interviews, or one if they want it. So thanks for making time for us this afternoon.
Of course. I appreciate the opportunity and getting plugged in there as an extra.
Yeah, not as an extra. We'll say as an encore.
There you go.
So for those of you who don't know, Jennifer, we met several years ago, I believe, right? We met once a couple times down at Fort Bragg for events. And then we met at the launch of the American Corporate Partners Military Spouse Program here in DC, right?
We did. And I will shamelessly go ahead and plug in, and I know you'll love this. I had been engaging with some of your content, saw some of the LinkedIn meets that you were doing there in DC, and said, hey, I see the great work you're doing. I would love to hear about some of the opportunities and challenges that there are with doing those meets, because I want to do my own down here. And you graciously scheduled a call with me. Yeah. So it's just a perfect example of, what you talk about as far as engagement.
Yeah, I mean, if you connect with people, if you engage, it's easy, because I knew who you are. Of course, I'm going to take that call. So, military spouse, Fort Bragg. You were working Heroes Make America, right?
I was program manager here at Fort Bragg.
Yeah. And then now you are the military or veteran recruiter for Aramark Uniformed Services, correct?
Correct. I run our military recruitment, engagement, and retention initiatives focused on transitioning service members, veterans, military spouses, veteran spouses, members of the Guard and Reserve.
So the entire veteran community, not just the military.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So what is Aramark? I know what Aramark is.
I'm so glad you asked that.
Aramark Uniformed Services. I know Aramark is what? Number 200 on the Fortune 500, right?
198.
Okay.
If we're being specific.
Specifics work.
We are about 15 billion in revenues, 270,000 employees across 16 countries, and we were officially founded in 1959, and we're publicly traded.
Wow. Okay, so now with that being said, what is Aramark Uniformed Services? It's one of the lines under the bigger Aramark umbrella, right?
Correct. So the company is divided into 3 lines of business: food, facilities, and uniforms. For the one-off person I find who actually knows who Aramark is, because we're a business to business, not a business to consumer, they typically recognize us for food. But on uniform services, we focus on providing uniforms and other workplace supplies to companies across the United States. Okay. So most people know us and they don't realize it. If you've ever seen the brown uniforms that the UPS drivers wear, it is a product we not only provide, but that we also launder for all of those employees.
Oh, wow. Now, I will tell you, it didn't immediately come to mind until I saw the logo. And then I realized I'd seen the logo. I think I've seen the trucks, right? All over the place. But, once you explained it, and I looked at it, I was like, wow. I didn't realize how big they were, and that's us being in that military bubble. So okay, can you tell your story, how you got there, basically?
Sure. And I'll shamelessly plug that we own, repair, and maintain that fleet of trucks ourselves, too. So entire transportation.
You don't get that size if you're giving away money to all these other companies. I think that's the key. All these major corporations kind of try to keep as much of their process internal, so that they can maximize on it. So no, that's not a surprise at all. Shameless plug accepted.
Perfect. So yeah, as far as my journey goes, I'm a little unconventional for what I do. I have a master's in clinical mental health counseling and had many years of experience working in sales and education and mental health. And like so many spouses, my resume is an absolute mess. It makes sense, but I need to explain it.
Hmm.
So I graduated from from graduate school and just really had developed an interest in military issues,
Hmm.
specifically the impact of career on the transition and on overall mental health and access to mental health. And it really was very interesting to me. And that ended up, without getting into making it super long, it ended up resulting in me landing a position as a career counselor at the
Hmm.
SFL TAP program on Fort Bragg. And I just found my absolute love there.
Hmm.
I enjoyed engaging, I enjoyed connecting, but I also volunteered for things like organizing hiring events.
Hmm.
And what that really shined a light on for me was that organizations don't always necessarily know how to navigate the transition programs and many of the available resources. So that became my area of specialization, is how to do that. And I used that information, ultimately transitioned into a position as a human resources consultant working
Hmm.
for a startup right outside of New York City, primarily working with the finance industry,
I remember
but
that.
then, yeah, but then also logistics and manufacturing companies. So unfortunately, the company failed,
Hmm.
but I had an incredible experience. It was a wonderful learning time for me, wonderful way to build up my skill set. And then I used that to transition into my position as a DoD Skill Bridge Program Manager, which was fantastic as well.
Hmm.
But then one day I got a message from a recruiter that said, "Hey, Jennifer, we're building a military hiring initiative, and your profile popped up in my LinkedIn search. Will you have a conversation?" Of course, I'll have a conversation. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, I had that conversation, and kind of the rest is history. I don't come from a traditional recruiting background. I have some sourcing experience, but I was really um, leveraging the knowledge that I have of different programs and how we can use that for recruiting, and specifically recruiting that doesn't always come with a budget. And that's what I leverage to get in.
That's incredible. And as you explain it, your resume doesn't. The way you explain it, your resume doesn't look that confusing. I mean, I think everything you said is just like a ladder or steps in your career transition, right? Your career progression, and it all makes sense. And I think that I'm really excited to hear that Aramark understood that you don't just build a website and soldiers come, right? You have to build trust and relationships in the whole military veteran community, because you know many of us don't. I didn't know what EY was 6 months before I got out of the Army. I didn't think to go to an Aramark website to look at what jobs they had. And if I don't go, I never know the scope of roles that are available or things that I might apply for. And so to bring in someone like you that understood the transition programs, that was active on social media, that understood the military veteran and military spouse community is really exciting. So let's get into the fun stuff. What's your day like?
My day changes significantly every single day. What is always true is I am continually sourcing for talent,
Hmm.
whether it is on Indeed, whether it is on LinkedIn, whether it's through different engagement. I'm looking for individuals, not necessarily for specific roles, though it could be. Some of it is I'm looking for pipeline building. I want
Hmm.
to make relationships now that will be of a mutual benefit
Hmm.
6 months down the road, maybe
Hmm.
2 years down the road. So I'm constantly looking for that talent. I have the meetings and emails like everyone else does.
Hmm.
But then also, I have a lot of time invested in our partnerships. So I actually
Hmm.
just spent the better part of my morning with Onward Opportunity and doing informational conversations with them there. So I do engage with different SFL TAP and other TAPS offices, with different veteran service organizations, just continuing to build our brand awareness, because I've recognized that is something that we need to work on as an organization. So I've got my calendar here so I can kind of peek. I've had informational conversations. I've had interviews on Monday, Teams meetings as far as staffing
Mhm.
goes. Tuesday for me was a little bit more of the same. I had some conversations with some state government organizations about
Mhm.
specific programs they have around Guard and
Great.
Reservists. Um,
So
yeah.
I got a question. So do you get a traditional like recruiter caseload, like number of recs? Do you get 20, 25 recs? Or are you more of a program manager trying to kind of build the pipeline?
Yeah, I'm about 50% recruiter, 50% program manager. But recruiter for me means that I may get asked to support specific positions that we have open. I will do strategic sourcing. And then once I've identified a candidate that I want to present, then at that point, I will kind of take over that process or be an augment to that process to take that person through. And if they're hired, then I will completely take it over at that point.
Awesome. So what metrics what does success look like for you? Like, how do they determine whether, hey, Jennifer had a successful year?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do set goals. 2020 was very fascinating for many reasons. We kind of had to get a baseline this year, right? So I'm actually in the process. I just had my performance evaluation yesterday.
Yeah. Wait, hold on a second. Before you get to your performance evaluation, I just realized that what you guys do with the cleaning, sanitation, and everything is the uniforms. That must have just exploded in 2020, right?
Yes and no. So we were impacted like everybody else was. We definitely had areas where we saw an increase. Some industries that we serve, such as healthcare, we could barely keep up with demand. But then you had some cities like New York City, for example, it was almost completely shut down. So that slowed us down in some ways. But overall, we are an essential business. We continued as an organization to work throughout 2020. We continued to hire for mission critical roles throughout 2020 as well. And I'll tell you, for me, I started with us on March 9th.
Oh my gosh.
So I can't say enough good things about the fact that I came out of 2020 with a job.
You know what? Honestly, companies know talent. And so I'm pretty sure that once they got you on board, they're like, we're not letting her go. So it's pretty easy for leaders to see that. So let's go. Okay, so that makes sense. So now let's talk. You said you just had your evaluation, right?
I did. So we evaluated what we did this year as far as our hiring goes, as far as, how 2020 did impact the number of recs that we had open over the course of the year, requisitions or jobs. And how many military connected individuals did we hire this year? And then what are our projections going to be for this year, which our fiscal year is October to October. So we're already in our fiscal year. So what are those going to be? We're looking at who we've engaged with already, how many more programs or locations or organizations do we want to engage with, and really evaluating it from that way. And then as an organization, we're also looking at how the application process is for our employee or for our candidates rather, and for our partners internally. So we're going to be evaluated based off of surveys. How was that process for everybody? Did they feel that their needs were met, and will be looked at based on those survey results.
Candidate experience is so important. So I love that they're doing that. We got some questions for you here. We've got Eddie asked a question. He says, where do you hire more from? LinkedIn, internal referrals, or traditional application submissions?
So I can only speak for myself because I don't know that data across the board. In all honesty, I'm so engaged on all of them. I'm not 100% certain, but I track all of that as far as where referrals come from. But I'll say I get a really good mix of sourcing that I do myself, and then kind of organic leads that I get as a result of the engagements and partnerships that I've developed over the last 10 months.
That makes sense. And it's kind of all going to start getting jumbled together as you get more engaged through the community. So let's talk about, so we talked about Aramark Uniformed Services, but now to talk about it as a company, I don't think people really realize the types of roles. So what types of roles are you hiring for like a traditional military spouse, recent veteran, service member? Like what kind of roles do you have available?
Sure. So, I mentioned the lines of business. I'll say that our line of business accounts for 17,000 employees, 228 locations across North America, and about $2 billion in revenues. So I can only speak for uniforms because that's where I squarely set. So the majority of our locations tend to either be production facilities or what we call depots. I call them staging locations. I think it's the best way to describe it. It expands our reach, but they're not distribution centers. We do have
Mhm.
some of those as well, though. So the majority of positions that you see are ones that sit in one of those two. So we have a number of production management positions for our depots and as well as our market centers. We have driver positions, and we have the managers that oversee the drivers or the route
Mhm.
sales representatives. And there's multiple layers of that, about seven different
Mhm.
layers of management. So that is primarily what we see. And then we have our whole sales team.
Mhm.
They are focused on new business and getting out to the communities and bringing on, new customers.
Right. I Now sales. Let's talk about sales. Do
Yes.
you have any? Oh, I mean, look, a lot of service members are like, I don't want to go into sales, and I'm like, do you realize if you ever want to be an executive anywhere, you've got to understand the business development aspect of it, the sales. I mean, everything runs on money when it comes to these companies. So when you talk about a sales role, how do you kind of define that? How do you explain that to service members?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's two primary sales roles for which I recruit, though not exhaustive of our whole
Mhm.
sales team. And what I'll say is there's a wonderful path of
Mhm.
career progression available on that team. But I primarily recruit for our facility sales specialists and our account executives. I affectionately refer to that group as our cold callers and door knockers because that's what they do. It's an outside sales position. But they go out, it's somebody who really loves to engage with people. It's very much a people person, right? And they're going out and they're asking for time and they are presenting our products
Mhm.
and getting those prospects really excited about what we offer. As far as the position goes, individuals that just have the right characteristics that we're
Mhm.
looking for, hungry, they're motivated by making money, they
Mhm.
like engaging with people, they like providing a strong customer experience.
Mhm.
Those are people that we can definitely work with for our facility sales
Mhm.
specialist. And we offer them a competitive guaranteed base salary,
Mhm.
a car allowance, and then on top of that, uncapped commissions and a bonus structure and benefits
Wow.
that start day one of employment.
Yep, that sounds incredible. I'm already taken right now, but you almost had me sold. So you're quite the salesperson yourself.
Well, one more, then there's an 8-week paid training program where we will go
Ooh.
through and teach them everything that they need to know on our processes so that they're ready to get out there and start making money.
And I think people are going to ask, does Aramark do DoD Skill Bridge? I usually get that on just about everyone. Are you guys taking interns at all?
Sure. We were participating in it earlier last year, but COVID brought a whole new
Mhm.
dimension of complexity to what we do. So honestly, we've paused that at the moment.
But there might be an opportunity again in the future once the world kind of normalizes.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've got the sales roles.
Mhm.
And can you describe some of the other roles?
Yeah, so we have it's three primary teams that we
Mhm.
have. It's our sales team, which we've discussed. We have our production team. Those are hourly production staff managed
Mhm.
by a production supervisor, potentially a plant manager. The location size
Mhm.
depends on that, and then a production manager. And then, kind of off to the side, includes our maintenance mechanics because we repair and maintain our own
Mhm.
industrial equipment, and a plant maintenance manager. So those are really the roles. Maintenance is just that, those individuals that come with
Mhm.
that technical background. For our production management, which I'm probably going to
Mhm.
call them roles, those are the individuals that are overseeing our production process. So looking for individuals that have a lot of safety experience,
Mhm.
love individuals that come with that. Individuals that have strong leadership and management abilities and that have led teams. We need cohesive teams built within our organizations, people that can really communicate that while what we do isn't glamorous, I mean, let's keep it real, it's dirty laundry, but it's incredibly essential, not
Mhm.
only for our businesses, but then also for our communities as
Yep.
well. So those individuals that can do that.
I
And then,
actually think that way how you explain that really aligns well with what when a lot of people put operations manager on their profile or their resume. I'm like, now that you explain that, I'm like, that kind of fits with what a lot of them think operations management is. When you talk about safety, when you talk about building teams, when you talk about production, refining processes, bringing people together, I mean, I think that would be a great fit. And I saw the
absolutely.
head nod, so I'm assuming you found some of those successes.
I have definitely. We definitely have production supervisors. We have production managers. And we, on our production team, we actually have a developmental role that's really
Mhm.
cool for the right person. And I have a veteran right now in one of those roles. It's an assistant production manager. We're looking for some of those skills that I just mentioned.
Mhm.
But what that assistant production manager does is they will come in, they will learn the position and how to operate a production facility. And then within 9 to 12 months, they will get promoted
Mhm.
and deployed to a location based on business need.
Oh, wow.
That's where it's not always the right fit because they're deployed within a region and they don't necessarily know where they're going. But for somebody who has flexibility, I mean, we pay for relocation costs, it's a promotion, it's an increase in pay, it's an eligibility for a bonus, and you take over your own location.
I mean, let's be honest. How many transitioning service members do you hear say, "I will go anywhere for the right opportunity"? So it's just like almost like one more continuation to your military career. You're getting PCS somewhere, and they're going to pay to move you and everything. So I don't think that's a hard sell either for the right people.
If
Uh,
they truly mean anywhere. But
yeah.
I will typically respond to that with there's a big difference between Atlanta and Florida. And then all of a sudden, anywhere becomes narrowed down some.
That's a good point. I was talking to somebody in the Air Force that said that they were getting moved to Minot, North Dakota, and they decided it was time to retire from the Air Force because they just did not want to go there. So, yeah, I
And
could
that's
see that
okay.
difference. So, we had somebody say I have flexibility, but unfortunately, they have their profile settings locked down, so I can't see who it was. So I would say if you're interested in these roles, I know Jennifer's active on LinkedIn, so you can reach out to Jennifer and tell her you're interested, and she'll probably take the phone call if it looks like you are. So we've got about another 5-10 minutes to go. Let's talk about your recruiting experience. So I understand you have some strategic sourcing roles, meaning they say, hey, we want to focus on getting more service members, veterans, military spouses in these roles, and you go out and find organizations, federal, state, local, nonprofits, whatever, to help get the word out into the community. Uh, you know, you engage with service members, you engage with the community to kind of spread the word, and then you take interviews as well. Do you actually interview for roles, or you interview to determine whether you want to try to put someone into a pipeline or refer them or whatever?
It's both.
Mhm.
So I absolutely am a gatekeeper in many ways.
Mhm.
A conversation with me, determining that you're the right fit, determining that it's a viable role. I always share with people, like many different organizations, we post a position when we have a need and we close it when the
Mhm.
position has been filled, which means it could be anywhere in the process. Right. So I like having conversations so I can see what's going on with this position. But if it's absolutely a viable position that this person is qualified for,
Mhm.
that their timeline is a fit for when we are looking to make a hire, and I feel like that they could be a match,
Mhm.
I will reach out to the hiring manager personally and see about getting them an interview. So I absolutely am directly hiring for currently available roles as well as doing some pipeline building.
Well, that's awesome. So, biggest tips for those in that interview, because when they talk to you, it's an interview.
Mhm.
Whether you want to call it an informational interview, whether you want to call it a chat, somebody reaches out and gets you on the phone on a Zoom call or whatever, they're interviewing. What are some of your biggest tips?
I am a scheduling type of person because I do a lot during the day. So they will typically have some advance notice that we're going to have a chat. And the internet knows everything. And I highly encourage people to take advantage of that and do some research. Our careers page and our job announcements can provide a lot of insights. They can provide a lot of questions to keep the conversation going. And what I find the most is that people don't prepare for conversations. They just kind of jump in. A lot of the burden is placed on me to say who we are and what we do. And I'm happy to do that. But it's those candidates, those individuals who have done that homework that
Mm-hmm.
really stand out.
I love it. I will tell you, I don't take phone calls if it looks like someone's going to make me do the work. If they're just like, hey, I want to be a management consultant, can we chat? No. It's, hey, I have a background in human capital, HR. I've done this. I'm a fan of EY. I want to be in the big four. I want to find the right role. Do you have time? Then I start thinking about it if we have enough in common and it looks like that. And it sounds like it's, if they just come on you and are like, hey, it sounds like you don't want well, what do you got for me, Jennifer? I want a job. I've heard of Aramark. What do you have that matches my skills? Like, that's not a winning conversation. It's when they actually take the time to invest a little bit to come to you with, I think this might be a good fit, that you can have a more productive meeting.
Absolutely. I mean, it absolutely sets them apart. That's not to say that individuals that haven't come prepared haven't ended up landing in opportunities at our company, because they have. But it's, if I'm talking to multiple people about a single position, that's where those points start to add up a little bit, undoubtedly. So just coming with some preparation, having reviewed the role, coming with good questions, having a basic understanding of what we do. It can be a little confusing because we are so big and we have so many lines of business. But if you come and say, I did some research, but I'm still really confused, I appreciate that more than like, no, I've never heard of you before, and I didn't take the 15 minutes before this call to do some research.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. So now there's only one of you. So do you ever recommend that they reach out to other veterans in the company, whether through LinkedIn or other, are there other groups they could join, or like, does your veteran employee resource group at Aramark kind of, I'm assuming you guys have one.
We do.
I'm pretty sure you do. That do they do any external engagement or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I did start in March. I'm still relatively green to the organization. And the fact of the matter is, I've been in my office the entire time because we went on a travel restriction day 2 of employment for me. So I know that I have limitations as far as what all I can speak to. So in instances where, I'm unable to really get into the granular details of what a candidate is looking for, I may connect them to somebody in a specific location, which I've done historically. I work for an incredible Air Force veteran who's been with the company for 11 years. I rely on him a lot as well for support. And then, yes, absolutely, I can reach out to others, engage through our Salute, which is our employee resource group, and kind of, phone a friend in that way.
Awesome. And then from the resume standpoint, how much do they have to have their resume put together before they reach out to you?
Before they reach out to me, they don't. I do like to look at the resume. I like to peek. For being really honest, Mike.
We are. At least we are.
Members of the military community, resumes all kind of tend to look the same.
Thanks to 1 or 2 nonprofits who do them all the same way. But still.
So I look for key experiences on their resume, and I'll ask them questions about that. At the end of our call, if I'm going to present them forward to the hiring manager, if there's just areas of their resume that can be strengthened some, I'll give them those recommendations and say, you might do this before you submit your application. Or you might do this and you might send me the resume, the updated one. But other than that, I really like having conversations with folks, because at the end of the day, industrial laundry is its own very unique segment. And there's not, even for non-military affiliated candidates, there isn't necessarily always going to be a very clear translation. So a lot of it is just looking at those experiences and drawing those parallels. And I can do that a little bit better with a chat.
Yeah, I think you could. In fact, I'm sure you could. And I always do recommend to people, because if you just do it the way TAP teaches you, where you just put your units and whatever roles they were, or if you get one of the nonprofits that does a good job, but then they all kind of look alike, you can get lost in the process. So I do recommend always to transitioning service members, military spouses, veterans, that they find mentors that aren't necessarily in those nonprofits, mentors in industry, and get their help in making sure that the resume really stands out and reflects positively for what they want. So we've got about a minute left. Open space for you to say whatever you want, Jennifer, and we'll go out on a positive note.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the one team that we didn't touch on was our service team. So we do hire route drivers. They can be really wonderful positions. We've had a number of our regional vice presidents who started with us as route sales support drivers. So we do have those opportunities. For anybody who has that technical background, please call me. Please hit me up. I want to have a chat with you. mechanical maintenance experience, diesel, heavy or gas engine, yes, come chat with me. But otherwise, I want for people to explore different opportunities. Companies that you don't recognize, don't let that deter you. Dig in a
Mhm.
little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Don't let products and services stop you from reaching out to somebody. There is a whole other
Mhm.
level of operations available at any given organization. So really just dig in a little bit deeper and make those connections. I can't emphasize that enough. So, and like I said, I'm always, I have conversations as much as I can. As time goes on, my bandwidth is getting kind of maxed out a little bit more, but as
Mhm.
long as I'm able to, I will continue to have those informational conversations and explore whether or not there could be a mutual fit. So feel free to reach out to me.
I love it. And I would tell every single person that's getting ready to transition in a career transition that isn't quite sure what they want to do, that they owe it to themselves to at least have a call. I mean, anytime you get a chance to join a Fortune 200 company, 198, I'll remember that now. Anytime you get a chance to join a Fortune 200 company and you have somebody designated and approachable, knowledgeable about the community that's able to help from a military spouse perspective, from a veteran perspective, from a transitioning service member perspective, it just makes sense. So make the phone call, do the research, reach out to Jennifer or somebody else on the Aramark Uniformed Services team, and just ask them, like, I want to learn a little bit more. I know you this. Here's what I'm liking to do. Can you tell me what you do? Or can you tell me what a production manager does? Or more about what your drivers do? And
Absolutely.
they're fantastic roles. So, and they all lead to somewhere. So,
Absolutely. And I'll say too, with 228 locations, portability can be achieved through transfer. Can we talk about that for the spouse community?
you can, yeah, please. You should
Portability
have
is
brought it
not
up
just
earlier.
remote. Portability is not just about being remote. And I say that as I sit in a remote position. Some people know me, know my story a little bit. My husband was on orders
Mhm.
at Bragg forever. Ever. And I
Mhm.
couldn't go anywhere. So remote saved me in the fact that I was able to continue to achieve career progression. But honestly, if we would have backed this up 6 years ago, I would have loved to have known about Aramark Uniform Services because I
Mhm.
could have worked at the location right up the road. Even if I started as a driver, I could have worked my way up. And if we were a PCSing family, then I could have just moved that position to our
Mhm.
next location. So and career progression can be achieved in the same way. And you're not waiting for someone above you to move up or move out. So those are all the different things that I can talk about in addition to the nitty gritty of some of our specific roles.
I hope people didn't tune out. You should have primed that in the beginning, like portability, 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 and that it doesn't have to be remote. So you're telling me if you get a military spouse at Fort Bragg and they get, PCS orders to Joint Base Lewis McChord, there's a pretty good chance that there's something in that area that they could either remote or local that you could probably move them to if they're an Aramark Uniformed Services employee.
Tacoma and Kent, yes.
Look at that, even better. So keep that in mind, everybody. If you're looking at a great company to join and you're just not sure, I would highly recommend reaching out to Jennifer. She's responsive. Let's make sure that flexibility in her schedule is gone and that we just jam up with all these requests. Jennifer, thanks for everything. And, obviously, if you need anything, give me a call anytime.
I appreciate the opportunity, and thanks so much to everyone who tuned in.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.